Hello, everyone. Welcome to C-Suite Talks. We speak with industry leaders, introducing you to some of the most interesting people and businesses today. We are focused on women, money, and power, as well as diversity in all areas. Welcome to C-Suite Talks. I'm Diane Gubin, co-CEO of C-Suite, along with...
I'm Beth Hilving, co-CEO of C-Suite, and today we're very blessed to have Darlene Hawley with us. She's an executive leadership and business coach. She's also one of C-Suite's executive coaches, so please look her up and do business with her. Darlene Hawley is a communication expert dedicated to empowering heart-centered entrepreneurs and executive leaders to find their voice and share their message with confidence and clarity. She believes in clear communication is the key to thriving business and powerful leadership. Growing up, Darlene was often told not to speak up, and overcoming that challenged her commitment to helping others be seen, heard, and valued. Always important. With extensive experience in leadership development and communication coaching, she equips her clients with the practical tools to engage their teams, build trust, and create lasting impact in any setting. So thank you to our listeners, and welcome, Darlene, to C-Suite Talks.
Welcome. Yay. So, Darlene, let me start off. How did you get started? Like, nobody grows up and says, I want to be a coach. How'd you get started in coaching? And what's your niche?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Diane and Beth. I'm excited to be here. And I don't know if that's true. I feel like when I look back at my coaching journey, I was always a coach. I was the girl that all my friends came to for advice. If they had something going on, they had questions. And so I feel like coaching kind of found me because I started out in retail management outside of high school and worked my way up really quickly into HR training and development for some big box retail locations. And when I found coaching, when I was getting out of retail and I found coaching, I was like, oh, this sounds like really cool and exciting. And I'm like, I feel like I'm already doing this. I was like, this is something that I've been doing my whole entire life. So I always joke that I'm like, coaching's been in my blood like the whole time. And so when I left retail and found that business coaching was actually a career, I was like, oh, I can do the things that I love and I can get paid for it. It was pretty exciting. And so I started on a journey as a business coach and supporting a lot of entrepreneurs who were starting their businesses, helping them create the foundations for their business, getting clear on who their ideal clients were, what their niche, their messaging, their offering, and then how to be visible and put their message into the world. And then I started working at the same time with a lot of executives who were looking to use their voice. They were struggling with identifying, like, how do they speak up in a meeting? And how do they find the confidence to walk into a room or onto a stage and really speak up for the ideas and issues and matters that mean the most to them? And so when I looked back on my journey, I was like, I always struggled with speaking up. As you just shared in my bio when you read it, like as a little girl, like in my household, I was pretty much told to sit there and be pretty. I didn't get to share my opinions and my thoughts. And it really was hard as I started navigating, working in my career, just finding a voice at the table. When I first got promoted into leadership, even, I was the only female manager on a team of about 8 other gentlemen. And at first they asked me to take notes and to grab the coffee. And I'm like, it took a minute. I'm like, at first I was like, oh yeah, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to do all those things because I love to give back and I'm a nurturer and a lover. So I'm like, yeah, I could do all those things. And then all of a sudden I realized, I was like, well, no one's taking me seriously here. No one's really asking what my thoughts are or what my opinion. And if I had an idea and I shared it, somebody else would come in and say almost the exact same thing I said. And they'd be like, yeah, that's great, Bob. Like, let's go with that. I'm like, hold up, wait a minute.
So I just said that. Me.
Yeah. I'm like,
Darlene, that's so hard what you're describing. And we've all been there, but keep going.
Yeah. Like we have to advocate. I had to advocate for myself. And so I found that as I started working with a lot of women entrepreneurs and executives, like they were all struggling with it. They were like, how do I get my voice heard in these meetings and in these spaces? And so I've kind of made it like, it's my love passion now, like to help other women find their voice and speak up in those ways so that we can get our message in the world, because we have so many brilliant things to say. And it's been, pushed back for so long. We have to really, find the courage and the power to speak up in those moments.
Wow.
So how do you feel and how do you train or coach the executive women to have the confidence and authority to speak up in high power situations?
Yeah, you're challenging
where their natural instinct might be to withdraw.
Like, to withdraw or just not talk, right? Just listen.
Yeah. And oftentimes that's the natural go-to. And so what I use a system called the Stephanie Moxie Vocal Empowerment System, where I teach them 5 basic areas to really find their voice. And the first one is like, what's your inner critic? What is that little voice in your head saying to you? Are you telling yourself, I don't deserve to be here, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough? Or are you saying, I do deserve to be here, I've got this, I need to speak up in these moments? So retraining how we talk to ourselves. We're often impacted by, the outside world, the noise, the things we hear other people say, but sometimes we can be mean to ourselves. We can put ourselves down. And I know, like, that's one of the areas that I find we need to really focus on. And it's kind of like working out. If we want a 6-pack of abs, right? We have to do a couple crunches, and we have to do them consistently. Unfortunately,
Right.
it's not like a one-time fix. And so we're constantly working on the inner voice that we have inside of our head.
So would you call this the imposter syndrome?
Yeah, it's a bit of imposter syndrome. I'm starting to think like imposter syndrome was something that somebody told us we had.
Yeah.
How do we like shift that from like we
To
just
stepping into who you
reframing,
are. Yeah.
reframing how we're speaking to ourselves. And so that inner critic can be a big part of it. The second piece that I talk about with the vocal empowerment system is what's going on in our bodies. What is the physiological sensations that are happening in our bodies? We get giant butterflies, our face gets red, our voice cracks. Sometimes we go to speak and our voice doesn't even come out. Like it'll feel like where'd my voice just go in this moment when I had something really big I wanted to say? And so how do we take back control of our bodies is a big thing that I work with my clients, just really like doing breath work, taking a moment to breathe and settle and put our feet flat on the floor and increase our posture, but just really physically show up in those moments. And then the third
You just made me straighten my shoulders.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Hang on. I'm going straighten up. Sucking that tummy.
It is hard to have good posture.
Yeah, sucking the tummy. Put your feet flat on the floor. Okay.
And then,
so how do these women take what you're teaching them and then move it into relationships with their teams
Wait.
and the organization?
We only got 2 points here, Beth.
2 of the 5.
Yeah,
Okay,
2 of the 5. I want to know the rest, and then let's go on to your question.
Okay.
Thank you. So the third one is messaging, like what we're saying. Are we being clear, succinct, and concise in our messaging? A lot of times we say too much, and we need to kind of pull back our words so that we can really be powerful and make sure our message lands really clear with other people. And also making sure when what we're saying, we're not just saying it to say it, but how is the other person that we're talking to able to take that information in? Are we saying it in a way that they're going to be able to understand and be able to digest it? So really identifying like, what are we saying? How are we saying it?
Right, because women, I know women tend to use too many words. Right.
I like to call it like, how do vomiting.
So it's how do we
verbal
self-edit,
diarrhea or something?
Yeah. We say so much because we have so much to say. We have so much to share, and we often haven't had an opportunity to say what we're thinking or feeling. So then we feel like we have to overshare and oversay. And so how do we like pull it back in a little bit and make sure that our message is really landing the way that we want it to? And then the fourth one is our presence. Are we unapologetically showing up as ourselves? So often we are trying to emulate what we see other leaders doing. We see, influencers and other executives or other people that are out there doing things, and we feel like we have to do what they're doing. But when we show up just as ourselves and we're authentic and vulnerable and real, that makes people lean in. It makes them more curious. It makes them want to listen to what we're saying. And then from there, it takes us to the fifth point, which is how do we call people to take action? How do we move them forward and not always get them on board with what we're saying? Because everyone's going to have their own thoughts and their opinions and the things that they feel. But are we calling people to take action? Are we asking people to be a part of the movement we're trying to create? Are we getting them on board with our message? So if you're a woman executive and you are working on a proposal or a sales conversation or a presentation, are you getting the people in the conversation you're having on board with where you want them to go? Are you calling them in and making them pay attention to what you're saying? And so those 5 pieces really allow you to kind of encompass, like, I feel good in my body, I'm having great conversations with myself, my message is clear, I'm showing up as myself, and people are taking action based off of the message that I'm sharing here.
Well, that's lovely.
Interesting. Wow. That was a lot. Yeah.
So then to build on that, how do they take that and build trust and fosters relationships in their teams and organizations? How do they take what you've coached them to do?
Right. So now we're talking for ourselves, and now it's the teams, but it's also, the board, it's all that.
Yeah. And I think a big part of that is building trust and fostering those relationships. when we're thinking about building trust with the individuals that we're connecting with, are we being open and transparent? Are we communicating and earning their trust and their respect? Especially when we're dealing with our team. Oftentimes, as a leader, we have a big initiative, we have big goals, we have big things that we're working on. How do we get buy-in from our team so that they feel like they're a part of the solution and a part of what's happening, and really let them know that we trust them, we see them, we value the work that they're doing, and we value the strengths that they're bringing to the conversation. And really, I think a big piece of it too is when we think about fostering that relationship, are we listening to what they're saying? Are we hearing them fully? Because I think sometimes we're going so fast. We have so many things we have to get done on our to-do list for the day that we forget to sit back and just listen and communicate and build the culture with the team that we want to create. So often, like, everybody talks about culture, like we need to have a good culture in the company, and we have our vision and our mission statement. But are we creating a culture that really makes everybody feel like we're a part of the team, that everybody feels seen, heard, and valued in those moments?
Well, that's a good question, especially since many corporate environments tend to be heavily male. The more up you go within the organization, not every industry or every business, but certainly a lot within finance or tech or wherever. So how can women feel like they're being heard with everything that you're saying without conforming to some of the more traditional masculine leadership traits?
Yeah, often, like, we hear the feminine and masculine energy a
Mm,
lot.
Right.
I think a piece of that is, like, how do we not feel like we have to emulate what we're seeing everybody else doing in those
right.
moments? I think especially when you see, like, we're used to seeing a very masculine approach. We're not used to seeing as much of the feminine approach. So a lot of women leaders are trying to lead like they've seen the men in their life lead. And so how do we soften that up a bit? How do we teach them to have bolder conversations where they slow things down and they listen and they get curious? I think one of my favorite things when I think about, like, feminine leadership is, are we getting curious? Are we asking really great provocative questions and actually listening to what the person is saying before we start thinking of the rebuttal we want to have back to them while they're still talking to us? So
Mm,
letting somebody get their full thoughts out, hearing what they're saying, and sitting back and really taking it in before we respond in those moments, I think, is one
mhm.
of the biggest things I've seen the leaders that I work with, is when they slow things down and really take in, like, the full 360 view of what's happening around them, versus maybe just staying right in that tunnel vision where they're only seeing what the objective is, or where they're going, or what the person might be saying to them, but they're not actually taking in the whole picture and really taking in the whole person in those moments.
Interesting. Thank you.
That's
A
really, really
lot, a
good.
lot to learn from that.
So, what would be some advice that you would give them to improve executives' leadership and communication skills? What would be some
Well,
advice that you would give
that's a good
them?
question.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think part of the things that we can do when we're thinking about stepping into this new version of ourselves, especially if we're really working on our vocal empowerment and how we're communicating, how we're showing up, I think part of it is mindset. And I like taking back the sensations in our body, like I talked about, like the physiological sensations that are coming up. Are we doing, affirmations to change our mindset, to change the nervous system in our body when we're speaking? Are we slowing things down? Are we saying, like, I like to do mirror work. One of the things I do with all my clients is, especially if they're struggling with what they're sharing in the moment, or they're not feeling confident, standing in front of the mirror for 1 minute every morning before they leave the house for the day, or before they hop on their first, virtual call, and to say, I'm worthy. I deserve to be here. I've got this. I'm a powerful woman. I'm a badass. Like, whatever language you need to use to, like, really put yourself
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
but use those. And then also finding ways to, just check in with ourselves. Are we projecting? What does our tone sound like? Are we,
Yeah.
do we have nervous energy in those moments, or are we really taking back
Oof.
control?
Interesting. Interesting. So the mirror work, is that better than meditating or just a different exercise?
I wouldn't say it's better. I think there's so many different ways that we can really
Uh-huh.
take back control of ourselves and, like, just settle in and get to know who we are. I think it's a version of yourself in the moment. Sometimes I love to do mirror work. Sometimes I journal and I'll write out very similar things that I might say to myself in the mirror, staring myself at, I like to do eye to eye contact. Like, I look myself directly in the eyes when I say the statements. And then other times, though, I just want to curl up on the couch and journal my thoughts and share my feelings and kind of get some of what's coming up for me. And then other times I want to go stand outside in the grass and let the sun just shine down on me and just kind of be quiet and still. And then other times I love to do breath work and just get quiet and still and breathe and like recheck back in with myself and feel connected in those moments.
What are some of the areas that the executive women are bringing to you that they're concerned about in today's
in today's
corporate America in the last
world?
couple years? Yeah.
Yeah. A lot
Because
of
there
it.
is so much going on around the world.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. If you turn on the news today, like your system's going into shock, right? Like there's just so much happening.
It's like you're slammed everywhere you go.
I think some of the big things that I'm hearing from the most with my clients is that they are struggling with getting, a lot of them are newly promoted into a position and they used to work with the people that they're now leading. And so oftentimes they're having a struggle with, okay, I used to be really good friends with these people and now I'm leading them. How do I get them to trust me and to see me as the leader that I'm stepping into? So identifying like how they bring the team up with them. And then part of it too is how do I support somebody else on this journey, mentor them so that they're ready to step into my position because I have goals to go to this next position. So getting the people on their team in a position they're ready to take on their role so they can be promoted and moved up within the organization as well. And I also see a lot of talk with, they're just struggling with how they're communicating, what they're saying when it comes to their, whether it's their boss or if it's the team, or sometimes it's the outside sales, right? Like a lot of us are dealing not only with our internal team, but we have an external team. We have, people that we're sending proposals out to. We're building relationships. We're networking. We want to be we want to be seen as a thought leader in the industry. We're creating a personal brand. Like every single one of us is creating our own personal brand that needs to be able to allow us for people to not only see us, but so when they think of somebody that they're looking for, if we're that person, that we've created an environment, whether it's through social media, through networking, in-person events, they see us as the leader that we truly are. So those are a few of
That's
the
very
things.
insightful, actually. So if you, Darlene, were looking and talking and coaching and mentoring younger professionals as they come into the workforce, what would be some key advice you would give them as they look to their future?
If I could go back and talk to like little Darlene,
Yeah, exactly.
I would definitely I think encouraging ourselves to speak up early and often and really trust our voice. I know that was definitely something I didn't know how to do in the beginning. And I had to, self-teach myself how to trust that whatever I was feeling in my body and what my intuition was telling me was probably the direction we needed to go. And so I would say, speak up early and often, trust your voice. Remind yourself to focus on your strengths and not to worry so much about fitting in with everybody else. I always laugh because in high school, I was so busy worried trying to fit in with everybody else, right? Like we're in high school, we're like, we want to be cool. We want to be feel like we're a part of something. So we blend in really well with what everybody else is doing. And then as you start your own career, all of a sudden you're realizing I don't actually want to blend in anymore. I don't want to be like everybody else. I need to stand out. I need to let people really see me for who I truly am and let them get to know the true me so that therefore I'm not I like to think of it as like ice cream, right? Like we don't want to all be vanilla ice cream. I want to be like mocha almond fudge or mint chocolate chip. I want people to really know who I am. So how do we change that structure? Because I have a 13-year-old daughter and I see her trying to blend in so much right now. She wants to be in the in crowd. She wants to, she sees what other people are wearing and how they're acting and what they're saying. And I'm trying to shake that out of her now so that when she can really just not have to feel like she has to redefine herself when she leaves high school. Because I think when you get into college and into your own career, we need to stand out. We need people to really see us for who we truly are and stop trying to be like everybody else and just be you.
That's
so
very
I think that would be
astute.
my best advice. Be you, don't be somebody else and just be yourself.
That's such a good question. It really is. And you know what? I think as I see my daughters, my advice to them, in addition to everything you said, would be to up your out. Up the amount of time you spend outside of your core organization. Like Beth and I have known each other 25 years, and that's because we met outside of our core companies, right? So those relationships, I think everybody's like, I've got to know everybody in my company. No, it's you got to know everyone outside your company too. Right?
Yeah. And I think too, I used to let my personal life intermix with work and talk a lot about everything. And now I do kind of keep it separate.
Me too.
Because it has not chosen well to do that.
Yeah.
So the work environment's the work environment. I'm there 100%. And then,
yeah.
and a lot of people have side games now too, or side gigs or whatever they call them. Right. So a lot of women have multiple jobs that they're doing. Right.
Yeah. And for so long, we were told like to leave our personal life at home when you come into work. And then when you leave, like leave work at home. And it's like, you can do that in some ways, but at the same time, like we're
it's very
like,
integrated.
I'm a mom and I run a business and I'm going into organizations and helping their teams and their leaders. And there's going to be parts of me that come into all those places. And so I want to show up as much as myself in all those areas, but not bleeding the lines to where like, it's not gossip. It's not
right.
The water cooler talk, right? Where we're oversharing too much sometimes at work, where all of a sudden it maybe makes it people like look at us differently, or like doesn't give us the leadership role that we're portraying in those moments.
Yes. The leadership role.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
All right.
Well, thank you, Darlene, so much for being with us today. This is Darlene Hawley, Executive Leadership and Business Coach. How can people find you if they want to?
The best place to go is either to my website, darlenehawley.com, and then my favorite social platform to hang out is on LinkedIn. So definitely come and connect over on LinkedIn. Let me know what some of your takeaways were from today's conversation. I'm always looking to have coffee chats and kind of connect and see how we can support each other, see what your goals are, where you're trying to be. And if I can help, awesome. If not, I will direct you in the right place.
So thank you, Darlene Hawley, Executive Coach, and thank you to our sponsors, CohnReznick, Advisory Insurance and Tax Services, City National Bank, Cigna, the healthcare company, Uncle Nearest, C-Suite Executive Search. If you're hiring for your team, do give us a call. Thank you for listening. Beth, do you want to wrap us up or you want me to?
Yeah. So hit Spotify, leave us, hit subscribe button to Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you find your podcasts. Leave us a review. Follow us on social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. You can send me an email if you have questions, Beth@CSWEET.org. And check out our website and come to the events and become a member of C-Suite. And you get to have a session with Darlene as part of that. So, yay. So www.csweet.org. And thank you today for listening. And thank you again, Darlene, for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.